I'll be talking about project-based learning and the flipped classroom up next on Gifted Guzman. Hello, and thank you so much for tuning in to Gifted Guzman again. I am, of course, Colleen Guzman, and today I'm going to talk to you about project-based learning and the flipped classroom. The reason I want to talk to you about this is because now that we have moved to distance learning, I have had a lot of success with distance learning with my students. And so several of my peers have been asking me, why is this going so well for your students? Why is this so easy for your students? And I've explained that it is because my students are used to this type of learning, because I use the Google Classroom quite often, and I actually require my students to complete a 6 weeks project every single 6 weeks. Now, what I do in order for them to be able to be successful in that is I compact the curriculum that we teach into fewer days so that I can have days in class where I can teach them how to use technology or show them the skills, or I can send them websites and we can look at things together where they can find the research that they need for this project-based learning. Because what I do with the project-based learning is I front load them with the TEKS that they're going to be learning the following 6 weeks. That sounds like a lot. I'm sure right now when you heard me say all of those things, you thought, oh my goodness, what is she doing? This is never going to work. Kids cannot learn multiple things at once, keep their minds straight on everything, do all of these things. There's no way I can compact the curriculum. My district gives me so much to do already, etc., etc., etc. I know, because I've heard it before and people have tried it and it actually works. So it seems overwhelming, but it's not as overwhelming as it seems. Now in this series, in this video, I'm going to be talking about how you can do it with the gifted and talented and the pre-AP population. I'm currently the gifted and talented specialist, so technically all the students in my classes are gifted and talented. However, I know from looking at their testing data, and if you're in a place where there's a gifted and talented population, you know that some of the students in your program are truly gifted and talented, which is about 2% of the whole population, and some of them are just academically advanced. But they can handle this as well if you tell them that they can and if you train them how to do it. So I'm going to show you my Google Classroom so that you can see how I have this set up and how I go about this, so that you can see what I do, and maybe this is something that you can use starting next year, because we may begin our classes in a distance learning situation next year. So I wanted to share this out so that people have this available, so it's something that they can do with their students for next year. So I'm going to switch over so that you can see my screen. This is all of my classes. I actually teach 6th grade science, 7th grade science, 8th grade English language arts, and I co-teach 8th grade science. So I have a lot on my plate that I can show you projects from any number of these. I'm going to show you 6th grade because a lot of people tend to think, oh, the 6th graders can't do this. They're very, very capable of doing this, actually. So I have my Google Classroom set up by topic, and their topic is 6-week projects. And there's a project, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th 6 weeks. So for the very first 6 weeks, I give them a research project where they just practice doing research. Since my students are gifted and talented, they also have to do a year-long research project, which I compact the curriculum even more. So there are some weeks where I compact their curriculum into 3 days, and on the 4th day they're working on their 6-week project, and on the 5th day they're working on their research for their year-long project. So I compact it, and they do a lot of work for me. But they do it well, and they do it with guidance, okay? And this is what helps them, in my opinion, this is what helps them to get there. So the first one for everybody, 6th, 7th, and 8th, is the current event article presentation. So they have to present a current news article regarding a topic. For my 6th graders, it's the properties of matter. Okay, it can be anything that's related to the properties of matter. Volume, mass, density, states of matter, elements, periodic table, physical change, chemical change, etc. So I'm giving them a chance to pre-learn some of the things we're going to get into in that first 6 weeks. We're in volume, mass, and density, and states of matter they learned in 5th grade. And then in the next 6 weeks, we're going to move to elements, periodic table, physical change, and chemical change. Okay. So if they are feeling comfortable with any of these, they'll choose those. And if not, sometimes they'll just ask me to help them and I'll help them choose something. So I ask that the article be from the current school year, but I also tell them that in science, when we're doing science research, especially for college and things like that, that it can be within the past 5 years. They have to read the article. They have to have some kind of understanding. So a lot of times they need to talk to me about it or talk to a grown-up about it. And they have to be able to summarize it and explain its connection to what we are learning in class. Now, I also show them at the beginning of the year all of the TEKS. In Texas, we have state standards that are called TEKS, the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. They're the standards. So I show all of my students every year. These are the standards that the state says we have to learn. This is what we have to understand, and we go through it so that they see what their year is going to entail. So I show them how to look up the TEKS so that they can then put that to the TEKS, okay? And then they have to present, and I let them have a timer because I usually only give them about 3 minutes because sometimes I have 27, 28 kids per class, and we can't be spending 2 weeks presenting, okay? Then they have to create a visual aid. For the first one, I let them choose. PowerPoint, Google Slide, Prezi, Powtoon, whatever they're comfortable with, I let them choose. Okay, they have to have words and pictures that help the audience better understand. So this is where I'm setting the scene for them of what it is they're going to have to do the next few 6 weeks. After this, I also add in a layer of they learn a new technology. So we go to the second 6 weeks. Now, in the second 6 weeks, we've learned about volume and density, and we're getting into elements in the periodic table, and we're going to eventually, towards the very end of the second 6 weeks, beginning of third 6 weeks, we're going to be learning about the different spheres of Earth, and we're going to be learning about the elements in those spheres. So I'm giving them a chance to front load a little of that information so that they know what this is. One of the things that I often do with them is, as we're going through this project, I've created my own project up on the board, and I've got it going on my projector, and we're talking about it. So those that need help, we're talking about it as I go along, and I'm filling mine out. And I always give them their own copies, and I tell them, type in it, right? This is your research document. You type in it, and I usually give them a daily grade for the research that they do in the document, and then I give them a test grade for the project that they complete. Okay? So they've gone through, and they've done this. All right? For this particular one, I gave them a link here to information at encyclopedia.com that will help them. So sometimes I do that so that they have a place to start so it's not so daunting, okay? And then for this one, I don't think I said in the directions because I'm there at school with them. So if I use this again, then I'm going to have to change this up when I use it for distance learning. For this one, I required that they make a Powtoon. So the second fold of this is teaching them how to use the technology because several of them have never used a Powtoon before. So I need to go through and show them how to use a Powtoon. Not only am I showing them how to research, how to be independent learners and independent thinkers, how to look up these things and ask Google, because a lot of them don't know how to ask Google a question. They don't know what to ask the internet to get them to where they need to be. So as they're going through these processes of these 6 weeks projects, they're asking me, well, what should I ask? Well, I never straight tell them this is what you should ask Google. I'll say, well, what are we looking for? What do we want to know? What is it that you need information about? And then they learn how to ask Google what it is they need to know for these projects. So again, as we're doing these, they're learning how to research. They're learning how to be independent learners. They're learning a new form of technology. As I go through the 6 weeks, they have to do a Powtoon. They have to use Adobe Spark. They have to use Canva to create an infographic specifically so that I teach them how to put everything on one page so that they can make sure that they know how to be succinct with their words, be specific in what they're saying, add text and visuals to be appealing, okay? And all the while, I'm showing them in class. Now, do they have enough class time to work on a whole 6 weeks project? No, but they have 6 weeks of time that they can work on it. I'm available every week, twice a week, for them to come in and use the computers. I am fortunate that I have one-to-one computers, so that is something that I can do with them. But I know on our campus, each one of our departments has computers, and we have enough that each one of the teachers can check the computers out at least 1 or 2 days a week. So maybe you're doing your regular lessons, hands-on, paper, foldables, notes, and then you check out the computers a couple of times a week, and the students are able to do it that way. Or you check out the library. The librarian's always really good about helping with this kind of stuff too. And then you have a second person who's there who's able to show them how to do research. And if your campus has paid for any kind of databases they can use, the librarian can show them that as well. So I would definitely say to get to talk to your librarian and see what it is that they can help you out with. So this seems daunting and it seems like a lot. And it's something that as you get to know your students and as you get to know yourself as a teacher, it's something that you can become more and more comfortable with. And as you're front loading them with this information, it becomes easier and easier to compact the curriculum, because then you can go back and say, okay, well, when you were looking this up in your project, what did you find? Well, what did you find? Well, what did you find? And then they're sharing ideas, and then they have information, and then they realize, oh, hey, I've already seen this stuff. I already know kind of what we're talking about. I didn't quite get it when I was researching it, but now that we're talking about it as a class, it's all coming together for me, and you see those light bulb moments. So if you're not teaching a gifted and talented class, and you don't have to do a year-long project, you can just do this once a week with your students, almost like a genius hour type thing. And if they're really interested in it, maybe they could do something extra and build an extra model. I have had students who have really liked the information that we've looked into, and they have wanted to do extra. They've made extra posters, they've made extra models, they've done little experiments at home to be extra things on top of what they've got, and then they can put those videos and stuff in there. So that is one of the ways I do it. I wanted to show you English Language Arts just because that's the other class that I teach, and I do this in English Language Arts as well. So let me go back to my screen, and I'm going to close these out really quickly. No, I don't have to. I'm just really weird about stuff. I love to close them out. So I'm going to go to my English Language Arts. So again, in the classwork, the calendars help a lot too, because it helps the students to remember to stay on track. So I know a lot of us are using calendars now for the distance learning, so that the kids know on this day I should do this and on this day I should do this. This is something really we should be using all year long, so that the students can work on managing their time. This is one that I used for ELA. This is just a simple for them to talk about their reading. This was the last one that they had to do, their 5th 6 weeks. So they had to tell me what reading was like for them and what it meant to them. And then as you see, I gave them all the options up here at the top. They can do Adobe Spark, a Powtoon video, something on Canva, because Canva has numerous options, a stop motion video, a website. I actually had several of them create a website through Weebly or Google Sites. And again, they're my 8th graders. I've had them for 3 years. I had a couple of them do a podcast. So I've had the opportunity to teach them all of these technologies. Every year I build on the technologies because I have the advantage of having the students multiple years. So it's something that I have that's unique to me. But if you have students that are actually really truly gifted or actually pre-AP, they may want to learn these kinds of things. They may want to learn how to use the 3D printer if you have a 3D printer at school. They may want to learn how to use a website. If they have the Google Suite, they can use Google Sites, Weebly. Let them try. Tell them not to be afraid. A lot of these things are drag and drop, so it gives them the chance to just try something new and to potentially be really good at it. That then is something that they can take into another class that's not just your classroom, and they can impress other teachers with and do things like that. That was a lot of information. I talked really fast, and I hope I didn't talk too fast for you. I showed you a lot of things. I'm going to do a few more videos in this series to break it down a little bit more and to talk about it, but I just wanted to do this introduction so that you could see what I meant by project-based learning and the flipped classroom. It is part of the flipped classroom because the students are doing the majority of the work on their own home time or in tutoring time or whatever. They're just doing it once a week in your classroom, and sometimes not once a week if you don't have time, but it gives them something additional to do that they're doing kind of as homework, and they're learning to pace themselves. So that's the flipped classroom part, and it's front loading them with information for the next unit, the next 6 weeks. So that's part of the flipped classroom as well. Whew, that was a lot of stuff and a lot of information. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you like this concept. I'm going to give some more information. I'm going to talk about how I've done this type of thing with my general education students, my ESL students, and my collaborative students, so that you can see how this can be done as well. And I'm out here if you want to make any comments and ask me any questions on how I can help you, or you can follow me on Twitter at Gifted Mrs. Guzman. All right, well, thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time.